with all the news from WTCN TV's expanded news gathering facility.
WTCN TV, Channel 11.
This is KARE 11 News at 10.
Atop her throne on this majestic float is Aquatennial's Winsome, Queen of the Lakes.
They are images of a Minneapolis that used to be, shadows of a more innocent time.
More than 500,000 view the Grand Day Parade, a spectacle to amaze and delight.
These are scenes from a 1961 film touting the rite of summer known as Aquatennial.
It was the happening, pre the Twins, pre the Vikings, pre any other major celebrations.
This pretty miss has journeyed way from Oslo.
People came from all over the world, really, to be part of this celebration.
Pam Albinson was 18 that year and fresh out of Anoka High School, and genuinely stunned to be crowned Queen of the Lakes.
For the new queen, it's a moment to cherish a lifetime.
I never expected to win. In fact, I had called a friend of mine in Anoka to pick me up the next morning at 10. I said, my bags are all packed, I'm ready to go home.
The title came with a big job. Pam would spend the next year traveling the globe, extolling the virtues of the Aquatennial.
They were given good coverage, by the way. In those days, everybody cared about queens. Maybe they all do it again, but in those days they did. And they would interview them in every city we stopped in. This was in its true heyday.
Star Tribune reporter Barbara Flanagan spent many years covering the festival and even escorted some of the queens on their overseas journeys.
Many of them were from smaller communities around Minnesota, and they were having the times of their lives. They really were. And I did too.
100,000 spectators crowd the shores of Lake Calhoun.
Virtually every lake and park in the city got in on the celebration that came to be known as the 10 Best Days of Summer. Hydroplane racing, ski jumping, sailing regattas,
and they're off.
Canoe derbies, and if you missed the first parade, you could catch the torchlight version.
Floats, bands, waving beauties.
A lot of kids would come down there and sit on their father's shoulders. And
Frank Anton is one of hundreds of volunteers who keep the festival running smoothly, pushing skipper pins to raise money. That 1959 pin is special. That was the first year Frank volunteered, and he's been back every year since.
Once you get involved at Aquatennial, it gets in your blood and you just continue.
Frank says the businessmen who hatched the Aquatennial modeled it after a fair they saw in Winnipeg in 1939.
And they saw this outstanding parade and a lot of different activities, and they brainstormed the idea of with a question being, why can't we do the same thing in Minneapolis?
July 20th, 1940, the first Aquatennial opened with the Grand Day Parade. And by today's standards, the news coverage was over the top.
In those days, we believed in mentioning everything in the parade, so we would write pages and pages and pages.
During World War II, the Grand Day Parade took on a definite military tone. The crowds on Nicollet Avenue continued to grow with each passing year.
Everything on that Saturday afternoon had to close down because the parade just took over.
Floats became a form of art. Dayton's launched the Showboat. A fur company recreated Minnehaha Falls on wheels. Snyder's Drugs rolled out a school of mermaids. And this stunning replica of the U.S. Capitol was also from Dayton's.
The late Joe Wright would spend a year working, planning the next year's float.
The Aquatennial did more than just entertain people. It helped mold Minnesota's image as a water sports paradise. And nothing did a better job of that than the Aqua Follies.
The world-famous Aqua Follies draws 40,000 annually to...
For 24 years, Theodore Wirth Park was home to the stage spectacle.
The crowd was looking at Olympic quality diving.
Fred Smith was stage manager for the Follies, beginning with the very first season in 1941.
It was so packed that we held it over. The Aquatennial ended, and we went on for a week.
World champion divers shared the spotlight with top-notch dancers and synchronized swimmers known as aquadeers. And Fred built many of the props they used, floating flowers that, on cue, became fountains.
Then they took little hoses from the side of the thing and they plugged them in like that so you had water coming out of the roses.
Early headliners included Buster Crabbe, an Olympian who also appeared in Tarzan movies.
And what a swimmer.
But by far the crowd's favorites were the comedy divers.
They would do very daring, funny things in crazy costumes. One guy would be like a baby in a baby buggy up on the 33-foot tower, and he'd go flying out of the thing down into the water.
The Follies ended in 1964. 4 decades later, the Aquatennial is no longer the only game in town. But new traditions emerged, such as the milk carton races at Lake Nokomis. And every year, young women still vie for the crown, for a chance to share the Aquatennial story with the world. John Croman, KARE 11 News.